Kevin Durant's undefeated since January 4th as of this recording. Since all the way back on November 25th, between Brooklyn and Phoenix, over that span, KD has won 22 games and lost just 3 of them. Through his first 8 games for the Valley, Durant's posting a 69.7% true shooting clip while being a team's second best only behind Devin Booker of plus 69. He's making a ridiculous 57% of his 16 field goals per night with the Suns, in addition to knocking down a mind-boggling 53% of his 9 3-point attempts per night. Despite casuals claiming that he's washed up, in the 17th year of his career, Chris Paul just made a career-high 7 threes in a game, combining with Durant to drop 13 of them. Personally, I've referred to CP3 in the past as a quote-unquote State Farm merchant, a nickname he'll continue to receive from me until winning a title, but the hate for some has attempted to cut much deeper. Therefore, this apology form for Chris is something that many salty haters should consider filling out. While you fill out that form and before deciding if the Suns are championship favorites, just 8.5% of you watching are subscribed, so please subscribe. Also leave a thumbs up. Takes a few seconds and makes a massive difference. So let's get the obvious out of the way. You can't forget that long before even trading for Kevin Durant developed into a mere thought in the back of anyone's mind, that this Phoenix core revolving around Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton took a commanding 2-0 series lead over the Milwaukee Bucks back in 2021's NBA Finals. To get there, they would take down 3 teams in best-of-7s that are still in the mix to this day, beating the Lakers in 6, the Nuggets in 4, and the Clippers in 6. More from a team perspective later on, but going back to their undefeated superstar Kevin Durant, and whatever this man says on Twitter about not caring about legacy anymore, after the Warriors hype on this channel and across all of social media from last summer, Kevin Durant's been seemingly on a mission to prove he can win a ring without Stephen Curry next to him. Sending a direct message to the association, KD just told the media, quote, "If you're a playoff coach and you're not prepared for how we come in as a team, I don't think you should have that job," end quote. Kevin Durant's proved throughout his entire career, even before he left OKC, that he's willing to sacrifice the amount of individual shots he personally attempts for the betterment of the team. Russell Westbrook couldn't take on those extra shots efficiently in Oklahoma, so KD skipped town to pair up with a man who could take on those shots efficiently in Steph. Despite leading the 2017 and 2018 finals in scoring while winning 2 finals MVPs, Curry is still widely regarded as the driving factor behind those championships. Following a chemistry/injury disrupted run-in with Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn and being dealt to Phoenix in exchange for Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and 4 first-rounders, Durant's thrived to say the very least in his tenure with the Suns so far, having both one of the greatest passers of all time in point guard CP3 and a scoring threat that can take a ton of pressure off him in Riz God D-Book. As a 1B scoring option, we've seen how Durant can be the underlying main force taking his team over the top when he played in Oakland. He's got nearly an identical, if not a more beneficial super team to work with in the Valley, given the pass-first nature and utterly talented passing ability from Chris Paul. Speaking of CP3, when the State Farm merchant is draining triples like he did last night against the shorthanded Denver Nuggets, the floor spacing for the Suns essentially becomes unguardable. The only one that can stop Phoenix when they're firing on all cylinders offensively is themselves. However, a few massive question marks for Phoenix can't be swept under the rug. The embarrassment they suffered to Luka and the Mavs in 2022's Western Conference Finals, where Doncic would outscore their entire team in the first half of a winner-go-home Game 7 and win a monumental trash-talking clash with Devin Booker, I'm sure still very much looms in the brains of a large portion of this Suns fanbase. The acting tough when they're up mentality stems back to the winner's work video, which went viral a few months prior to their embarrassing collapse at the hands of the Dallas Mavericks. While they now have Kevin Durant, plus the fact that Dallas didn't even make the playoffs this year, as painful as it may seem at first, I think it's important that the Suns core who were here for that disaster both remember the feeling of it and what led to it. Informing Durant in a quick discussion about said collapse, if they haven't already, may be something Coach Monty Williams would want to get out of the way, because said collapse is what took place in 2021's NBA Finals as well, when the Suns would sit pretty after going up 2-0 and lose 4 straight to Milwaukee. Whether or not that discussion's been had, having the assassin that Kevin Durant can be at his best can cover up for a multitude of sins. Additionally, the way he's fit into this Suns offense as the 1B scoring option next to Devin Booker, being able to take over as that primary scorer as we saw last night when need be, has been a fluid adjustment. But another question mark is how Booker and Paul will respond when teams are game planning to shut down Durant, just like the Celtics did in last year's first round. The length of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and the Celtics mixing up blitzes with pestering one-on-one stances where they would get directly up in KD's grill, almost like how they used to shut down Dirk Nowitzki, forced him to make errant mistakes one after the next. For the series, Durant would shoot just under 34% from three-point range and under 40% from the field, while getting swept by the Boston Celtics last year, the same team that Stephen Curry would go on to beat in the finals. With that said, while that was a rare once-in-a-blue-moon type playoff showing where he was inefficient, let's not let it slip our memory who we're talking about here. This is a man in KD who's captured 4 scoring championships, 2 championship rings, and made 10 All-NBA teams, having become a top 3 player of this generation. Proven he's far from washed, the blazing efficiency KD's put up all season should put a precise halt to that recency-bias-based narrative. In career campaign number 16, the 34-year-old shot-creating sharpshooter is averaging what would be an NBA 7th best 29.1 points per game. He's making a career-high 56% of his shots from the field, a career 4th best 40.4% of his shots from deep range, and a career 3rd best 1.4 blocks per game. KD's historically great offensive skill set of course features an array of deadly weapons, stemming from an incredibly poised ability to shoot over the top of anyone with an 11-foot release point on his jumper. From there, whether it's his ability while standing at nearly 7 feet tall to face up and maneuver for buckets from the post, or take it off the dribble coming off a screen and drain seemingly impossible pull-up J's in traffic from the perimeter, the craftiness of Durant's footwork and the balance of his shooting can be a 1-2 punch that's impossible to slow down when he finds a flow. Amidst this Suns offense, even if he's forced to kick it out after getting clamped up / double-teamed, or in the situation where he's tasked with merely spacing it out from the corner, the proficient spot-up shooting threats and willing passers that CP3 and D-Book are make Durant the perfectly suited top weapon that puts the icing on the cake to an already stellar blend of talent. DeAndre Ayton has to be more of a force on the glass as he was shamefully out-rebounded by a 6-foot 37-year-old in the State Farm Merchant against Denver. Ayton is, however, finding some solid pick-and-roll chemistry with Kevin Durant. The hate for DeAndre goes over the top, but I think that's because some people know that if his board getting can become more aggressive and if his perimeter defense can become more versatile, that's what would make this Suns team bona fide championship favorites. A lot depends on the production of dominating. The Suns are equipped with a veteran-based group who, fittingly like Durant, both have a ton left in the tank and a boatload of high-stakes playoff experience. 2 former members of my Toronto Raptors in Terrence Ross and Bismack Biyombo are 2 very solid bench pieces that give you the ideal blend of perimeter creation and dirty work on the inside. T-Dot, Flight 31, and Biz may not be the athletes like they were in their younger days, but they've improved their overall impact since then, polishing up their games and bringing night and day more value compared to their younger days in the leadership department. Ross and Biyombo are just solid glue guys who you can envision being pieces to a championship roster. Players who got mentions in a Suns video of mine from earlier this year in Damian Lee and Jacques Landale give you a few extra glue guys as well. Josh Okogie is one of, if not the most under-talked about perimeter defending beasts in the league. Okogie can pull off momentum-shifting defensive sequences, as a few of those said sequences have resulted in Play of the Year candidates. This is not even mentioning an off-the-dribble shot creator who can get his own and be productive when he's not over-dribbling too much, a man in his 9th career campaign. If the currently day-to-day TJ Warren can continue to accept a smaller role than he's been accustomed to in the past, then he can be a guy who wins you a playoff game or two also. Not to be dismissed, Torrey Craig, like Josh Okogie, can guard the opposing team's best player, saving energy for Durant and Book. Last but not least, you've got a marksman in Landry Shamet at your disposal. Monty Williams has no excuse not to lead this roster to a championship, and based off Durant's warning to opposing teams, KD doesn't have one either. Whether it was the Charles Barkley era or the Steve Nash era, this has been a Pheonix organization that's come seemingly inches away from achieving the ultimate glory time after the other. 2023 is starting to seem like it may be the end-all and be-all to the suffering that this fan base has endured. Will this be the year for the Suns in your opinion? Best answer gets next video shoutout. The 2 commenter shoutouts for my last upload and this one are on your screen, and peace.